So economists, those who study how people make decisions, how much they work, what they want to buy, how much they save, how they invest their savings, and how people interact with one another, on which price buyers buys and seller sells. It's fairly simple. If you have any question regarding any point, please do write us on our WeChat group or on our Blackboard discussion forum. Now a big question that should pop in your mind, that is, why to study economics? So economics, first of all, you want to learn a new way of thinking, and we will be discussing throughout this course a new way of thinking. For example, what if taxes gonna increase, how it will affect my spending, my savings, and my buying choices or patterns or my plannings. Number two is to understand society, right? How society behaves. What happen if they're gonna be like Olympics in my country? So it's gonna be like economic boom, or they're gonna be like stability in the economy, or there's going to be depression in the economy. And to understand global affairs, how the situation in like America is affecting my country, or how the situation in China affecting my country. So global affairs also, you can see that, for example, there was like a credit crunch, and right now there is like coronavirus, who is like a major pandemic in all over the world, and how it will affect the global economy. Right now the studies shows that it already decreased the global production by more than 3%. So how it will affect my country, and how will affect my country's interaction, buying like imports and exports to the other countries. So this is how we understand global affairs. And the fourth one is to be an informed citizen, which is very important. As soon as you just turn on the TV right now, and you can see different kind of channels, news channels, and there is not a single day or not even a single hour of the TV that you don't come across with different kinds of news, taxes, stock exchange, global affairs, global economy, even simple like cities economy, investments, like how it will affect the the local people. So all this stuff you should know that, so that you can be more informed and you can also plan better. So in order to further elaborate the third point, which is understand global affairs, so I just told you that news is filled with economic stories. Right now the coronavirus has caused global economy to shrink by more than 3%. Also tourism, like coronavirus started in the beginning of the Chinese New Year, how it will affect the tourism and airline industry. Now you can see that they are at the verge of bankruptcy right now. So also politicians place economic well-being on their citizens near the top of their priority list. Like whenever the new president is coming, and they just run in their marketing campaign of their like candidate, that they will improve the lives of a common person, or they will eliminate the poverty and all that stuff. So that's how you understand that how economics works, and how these policies going to affect the local people, or the poor people, and why there is a gap between rich and poor. It will help you to understand all these concepts. The fourth point is to be an informed citizen. So even if you don't have any interest in economics, even then you study the economics to be an informed citizen. So in order to be informed citizen, you must have some basic understanding of economics. How to understand the economic policy, forms of taxation, and effects of free trade. Even though you don't have an interest in free trade and economic policy, then you surely do have the interest in taxation, how it will affect my per month earning or annual earning, how it will affect my generational, you know, earnings as well, or my bequest need. For example, you are lefting some kind of money, or you are inheriting a big money from your ancestors, from your father or your grandfather. So how this wealth or property gonna be affect you, how much tax you have to pay, and how you can avoid the or how you can minimize the tax. So all these affect your planning, your budgeting as well. So in order to learn or study the economics, you will better understand or make good decisions when it comes to the taxation as well. So economics, why we study economics? At least if you don't have any interest in economics, then the last option is to be an informed citizen. So now we are officially starting the 10 principles of economics. Number 1, people face trade-offs. Number 2, the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Number 3 is rational people think at margin. Number 4, people respond to incentive. So all these 4 principles, they are called principles of individual decision making, and you can see that only individuals are here. You can see that the individuals, how they behave or how they make decision making. So these 4 principles are also called principles of individual decision making. The 5th one is trade can make everyone better off. 6th one is markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. 7, government can sometimes improve market or economic outcomes. And the 8th, these 3 are called principles of how people interact, right? In which you can see that people are interacting. There is the word of like market, trade, right? And the last 3 one, that the standard of living depends on country's production, prices rise when the governments print too much money, society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. These 3 last 3, 8, 9, 10, they are called principles of how the economy as a whole works. First of all, how individuals make decisions, and then how people interact with each other, and then and then how the economy as a whole works. So we're going to explore one by one. So number 1 principle is people face trade-off, which means to get something or to get one thing, we usually have to give up another thing. For example, the famous example of students. So the scene between time and study and job. So if you are not studying, you would be spending that time to earn something, or you're working on a Starbucks or McDonald's or in a store or your own business as well. So why you are studying, right? It means you forgo that opportunity to earn and you come up for study, or you forgo the study and you go for earning, right? It means there is a trade-off. Similarly, family income spending decision between vacations, child education, clothing, and savings. For example, this year you are going to vacations, then you are spending less on clothing and less savings. So it's like one another. It works like one or the other, right? So this is called the face-off. And the famous quote or tagline for this is that there is no free lunch, or there is no such thing as a free lunch. So making decisions require trading off one goal against the other. So there are some classical trade-offs, that is guns versus butter, which is the famous notation for the governments that are usually discussing in parliaments. That is, the more we spend on national defense guns, The less we spend on the consumer goods, we call this butter, and raise our living standard. So similarly, if we are spending too much on ammunition, defense projects, and all those stuff, then we have less money to spend on our people well-being, right? So that's why the medical cost and housing cost, or transportation costs are rising in America and Russia and all those countries who are spending too much money on their defense. And then the next one is clean environment versus high level of goods. So if you are producing high level of goods, then the wastage goes to the, the waste go to the rivers, lakes, and it will pollute the environment. So if you go to the clean environment like green production, then your cost gonna rise. When your cost gonna rise, then people should switch your product to the one which are very cheaper. So if we are producing high level of goods, then surely we are compromising on our environment. Or if we are thinking about our environment, then what happened? Then the demand of those products gonna decrease. Why? Because people want to pay less money, and they will be shifted to the competitors. So these are the some classical trade-offs that belongs to our principle 1. So I have very nice video on the subject of guns versus butter. So let's watch this.